everyone, and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda, and in today's video we're going to be giving the Ombre French trend a go with a little bit of autumn nala as well, so I really hope you all enjoy watching. Now, to start off today, I am working on some display tips, but I am going to come in and apply my rubbered coloured base to begin with. So for today's design, I've opted for 05. You're not really going to be seeing this colour in the design, but when I'm working over these clear tips, I like to add one of the rubber coloured bases, as it kind of gives off the same effect as if you was working on the natural nails, if that makes sense, because you're adding a bit of a pinky nude shade to them. So I've added a thin layer of this to all of the nails, and then I'm going to pop this in to cure for 30 seconds. Of course, you could wear these as press-on nail tips as well. They don't necessarily have to be used as display tips. So if you do press-on nails, I would really recommend adding in a layer of your rubber base coat before coming in with your gel polish design. So to start off with, we're going to be doing the Ombre French nail. So I'm going to be using O Vanilla and Sunset Glow for the first one, and I'm going to start off by using my ombre brush to create that blend as well. So I'm coming in on one side with the O Vanilla, taking that just simply halfway down the nail, and then on the other side we're going to take the Sunset Glow. And the first part of this design is exactly the same as doing a vertical ombre, so if you are familiar with them, then it makes this design a little bit easier. Now, I have always found vertical ombres a little bit harder than the traditional ombre where you've got it the other way around, just because I find it's a little bit harder to get your brush into the correct sort of positions and get good blending. So I did faff around a little bit, but I did find certain things helped me. So the same as when I'm doing my classic ombres, I'm coming down and I'm blending out that harsh line where the two colors meet, and then I'm trying to take the O Vanilla into that center color that we've created, and then the same with the Sunset Glow. It did look a little bit streaky, so I'm going backwards and forwards until I'm happy with the blend. In all honesty, these were two colors that were a little bit tricky to blend together, as they are so different. You know, one's light and nude and the other is bright, highly pigmented and orange. With the base, or with your first coat of ombre, it's never going to look perfect, so don't faff around with it too much. You can perfect the blend on the second coat. So once I was happy with that first coat, I've popped that in to cure for 30 seconds, and then we're going to come in and do the second coat. So I'm starting off by applying those two colors exactly the same as before. O Vanilla on one side, Sunset Glow on the others. And then I'm going to take my ombre brush and start off in that center, blending those two colors together where they meet. And this is going to help you create your transitional shade. So with here, it's going to create like a softer peachy orange color. And then I'm going to take that Sunset Glow and take that ever so slightly into that color that we've created in the center, wipe off my brush, and then do exactly the same again with the O Vanilla. And I kind of keep doing this until I'm happy with the blend. And then another little tip I found is flipping your brush around, and then you've got some of the Sunset Glow that you've picked up, and you're going to take that into the O Vanilla, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what you will see me do at certain parts, but I was just coming in and out trying to blend the two colors together as best as I can. You can also see here I turned my brush on its side so that I was just working down the very center of the nail, and I found this helped as well to create the blend and soften the transition between those two colors, as they are quite harsh and different. But it was a little bit of a learning curve with using two colors like this. When I have done vertical ombres before, I've kind of stuck with colors that are similar, but for this particular trend, I think it works better if you've got quite contrasting colors. So I'm just coming in now in any areas, because obviously this is the second and final coat, I'm just looking over the nail and coming in and blending and softening any areas where I'm not 100% happy with the blend. And whenever you see my brush go out of shot there, I'm just cleaning it on an alcohol pad to make sure that my brush is nice and clean and I'm not taking either of the colours where I don't want them to go. And then once I was happy with that, I cured that for 30 seconds. I always allow my ombre nails to sit for a couple of seconds before popping them into cure, as this minimizes any brush strokes. And then we're going to come in with the new Kiki London French brush. So this brush has been out a little while now, but it is fairly new to the Kiki London range, and I absolutely love it for any kind of French designs. So I thought I would give it a go in this one. So for the French ombre part of the nail, you're going to take your two colours and pop them down on a palette. I'm using the Kiki London palette here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my first colour and load up my French brush with a generous amount of that O Vanilla, and then we're popping the O Vanilla down over the top of the Sunset Glow. So I'm not stressing too much about creating a perfect smile line, which is what I would normally do with the French brush. I'd allow it to create my smile line. But on this particular design, because you're going to be blending those two colors together and creating an ombre on the French tip, you are going to mess up your smile line a little bit. So don't stress too much about creating a perfect smile line at this stage, because we're going to end up messing it up a little bit and then coming in and cleaning it up. So once I'd applied the O Vanilla, I'm flipping my brush over and applying the Sunset Glow. And I still found the French brush helpful for this part of the design, because it helps you work out how far to take down the edges of your smile line. Then once I've got that gel polish applied, I'm going to switch back to my ombre brush, turning it on the side because we've got a very small area to work here. So I don't need to, at the starting off, use that full part of my brush. And I'm turning it on the side just so I can use a thin amount of the brush, and I'm blending those two colours together. And then when I've blended out the harsh line, I'm just coming in with the brush as normal and blending them together a little bit more. And then, like I said, this is going, or it did for me anyway, mess up my smile line a little bit. So I'm going to take the angled nail art brush. I've wiped it on one of the Kiki London alcohol pads, and I'm just going to clean that up in any areas that I want to crisp up that smile line. Then we're going to pop that into Cure. Same as before, don't stress too much about creating the perfect blend on your first coat of colour, because you can come in and do that on the second coat. So on to the second coat, I've loaded up my French brush. I do find the French brush works better if you have a generous amount of gel polish on there. And then we're coming over the top of both of those colours exactly the same as before. And then we're going to clean up that brush and switch. Oh, sorry, I decided to add a little bit more, because with O Vanilla, where it's a lot lighter than the Sunset Glow, you do end up needing a little bit more gel polish just so you've got something to work with. And then I'm going to switch back to my ombre brush, and exactly the same as before, working with the sides of it to begin with, just to soften out that harsh line where the two colours meet. And then I'm blending them together. I come in and added a little bit more of the O Vanilla just because I hadn't quite touched close enough to the Sunset Glow, so it was making it a bit tricky to blend together. In all honesty, this was probably, I think, only my second attempt at doing the French ombre. I did the first one when the trend first came around, and I found it quite tricky, and I just haven't had time to play around and practice, but I really wanted to include it in a video because I know it's really popular at the moment, and I love any kind of ombre designs. But this first one here was a little bit tricky. I am going to do another one because obviously the more you do something, the better it gets, and that one goes a little bit smoothly. But here I was kind of just playing around with the colours and learning how they'll blend together, and little tips and tricks like turning the brush on the side, the ombre brush on its side. And this was the final result. Now I love it. In this particular design, you don't 100% have to get a perfect blend for it to still look good. So definitely play around, see what colours work for you guys, and you let me know in the comments below if you try it and how you get on. So on to the next one, I'm doing exactly the same, but this time we're going to use O Vanilla and Caramel Swirl. And I did find that these two colours blended together a little bit easier, which is kind of expected because this one is not as bright. So kind of like Caramel Swirl is muted and similar to the O Vanilla. Even though they're still contrasting, they did blend together a little bit easier. So as you can see, I've placed down my two colours. Here I just had a little bit of fluff stuck in my gel polish. So I was just getting that out before we go into blend. And then I felt a little bit more confident doing it on the second nail as well. So it did go a lot more smoothly. But I'm coming in with my ombre brush as normal, coming straight down the middle of that nail and creating our transitional colour between those two colours. Just really rubbing my brush through them using light strokes. It looks like I'm being a little bit more heavy-handed than what I am because the video has been sped up. But I'm simply just brushing through the nail. And then you are going to end up with a little bit of gel polish build up on your brush, so make sure you wipe that off on your alcohol pad. And then you can see those two colours blended together pretty effortlessly, to say this was only the first coat. So then we're going to come in and do exactly the same again for the second coat. So I'm applying a generous amount of O Vanilla down one half, keeping it as neat as you can, by the way. You want to aim for that very centre of the nail. And then I'm coming in with that gorgeous Caramel Swirl on the other half. Caramel Swirl is one of my favourite colours for autumn, and I'm not a big brown lover, but I really like this one. Then again, blending the centre of those two colours together, creating that transitional colour in between. And then what I'm going to start doing is taking some of that O Vanilla into the transitional shade and the caramel swirl into the center as well. But again, it was a really effortless blend with these two colors. You see there, I just had to go up and down the center a few times and it blended together effortlessly. You will find when doing any kind of ombre design, certain colors blend together easily. Nudes and browns, when you think about them, they're very similar. So even though one's light and one's dark, it works better. Whereas when we was doing the Oh Vanilla and the Sunset Glow, those two colors are very opposite, and it makes blending a little bit trickier. But the more you practice, the more you can blend any two colors together. So coming on to that French part of the design, we're going to come in and apply our Oh Vanilla on one side and our caramel swirl on the opposite side, so that the caramel swirl is going over the Oh Vanilla and vice versa on the other side. I'm not usually a big fan of any kind of optical illusion kind of design, so this hasn't been one of those trends for me that I've kind of liked as much as some other trends, but I have to say it was really fun to do, and the overall design is quite funky looking. Let me know what you've thought of this trend below. I know it's been a couple of weeks now that it's been a little bit popular, and I can't in all honesty give any credit to whoever come up with it, because I don't know who was the original person who sort of kicked off this trend. Again, once you have got your blend done, whether you have used an ombre brush to do it, a striped liner brush to do it, any kind of nail art brush, I've seen some people just use their gel polish bottle brush to do their blend. Whenever you have finished creating your blend, I always find it better to come in with in my opinion, the angled nail art brush and clean up that smile line, because cleaning up that smile line really helps the overall look of the nail, because everything looks nice and sharp and smooth and clean, which helps with the overall appearance of the ombre between the two parts of the nail. So here we're just doing our second coat, blending those two colours together. It is a little bit tricky doing a blend on a French tip because you've got such a small area to work on. So I did find this step in the design a little bit tricky, but take it slow, use the sides of your ombre brush. And in all honesty, if you find it hard doing this with your ombre brush, you could do this with your striped liner brush as well, because it's a lot of a sort of thinner point to it. You'll be able to blend the two colours similar to what you would with the ombre brush. And then once I was happy with that, I'm going to pop that in to cure for 30 seconds. And then this is what the final design looked like. I definitely preferred these two colours together. I thought it looked really, really nice. Now, I didn't want to do 5 ombre French nails, as I thought that might be a little bit boring to watch. So we're going to do some autumn nail art on the other 3 nails. So I'm starting off with creating my base, and I do want the colours to match and flow with those French ombres. So I'm coming in with the Oh Vanilla that we used on them, and I'm applying 2 coats of this. And Oh Vanilla is such a beautiful creamy nude base for any kind of nail art, but I especially love it in the autumn months. So as you can see, I've done that on all 3 of those nails, and then on top of that I'm going to apply the Kiki London foil gel, because I want to add some foils into this design. So when I'm adding the foil gel, I like to add a really nice thin even layer. I'm not doing full coverage foils, but to make sure the nail looks even at the end of the design, I like to apply a thin layer to the entire nail. So I'm going over this just to make sure it's all nice and smooth and that I've not applied too much, and then I'm going to pop that in to cure for 30 seconds. And then for my foils, I went for the classic metallics kit. Now I love these. These are my foils I probably use the most, but I especially love these 2 matte gold and bronze looking ones for the autumn. So we're going to use those. So I've cut out a small piece of the foil. We're really not going to use a lot for this design. And then I'm going to start off on the first nail, tapping it up in the left hand corner of the nail. And I've kind of scrunched the foil, as you can see as I'm holding it, so that it doesn't give me a full coverage effect. I want that shattered, broken look. And then I've gone over it with the gold, and then on to the second nail. I'm going to do it on the tip of the nail. So I'm coming in again exactly the same technique as before, kind of scrunching it up a little bit so you get that broken, shattered looking effect. If you don't do this and you just press it straight down, you'll get a smooth effect. So it kind of depends on the look that you're going for. And then on the third nail, I'm going to do it up in the right hand corner, just so it flows across all 3 nails. I wanted to come in and add a little bit more of the gold on this one, and I love how these 2 colours work together. So this is what the 3 nails look like. And then I'm going to come in over the top of this and apply the No Wipe matte top coat. So I'm applying the matte top coat for 2 reasons. I want to seal those foils in before I move on to the next part of my nail art design, and I also want to have a matte surface because we're going to be doing some hand painting. painting and I prefer to paint over a matte surface. I find it a lot easier just because your gel polish won't flow on the nail as much if it's on a matte surface compared to a shiny top coat. So that's why I've applied my matte top coat. Now you can skip this and come directly over the top of the foils and your gel polish with your nail art, but then if you make any mistakes and rub it off, you're going to rub off the foils as well. So I always like to make sure I seal my foils in first before I move on to my next step. Then for the nail art, we're going to be using both of those colours that we've used on the French ombre nails. And then for the design, we're going to be using our stripe liner brush. So as you can see, I've popped down the caramel swirl and the sunset glow. And we're going to start off with the caramel swirl, and I'm on all three of the nails going to draw on some simple nail art leaves. These are really, really popular for autumn and they're really easy to do. So as you can see, I've loaded up my stripe liner brush with, I start off applying a generous amount of gel polish to it and then I wipe off a lot of the excess just so that I've got enough going through all the bristles on my brush, but so that there's not loads on the very tip, because if you apply too much gel polish, when you come in to do a thin line, it's going to end up quite a thick line. And another way to get quite a thin line is by, when you're working with your stripe liner brush, only applying a minimal amount of pressure. The more pressure you apply, the more it's going to flatten out those bristles and you're going to get a thicker line, which of course, if that's what you want, that's great. But if you're trying to create quite a thin line like I did with the stem here, then I'll try to apply not too much pressure. And then we're just doing some really simple leaves. On all three of the nails, I tried to make each of the leaves look a little bit different, just so it weren't all the same. And again, I followed the pattern of where the foils are, because I wanted these leaves to kind of be layered over the top of the foils. I still wanted a little bit of it to poke out onto that au vanilla so it pops a little bit, but I quite liked how having it over the top of the foils gave off that muted but layered effect. It looks really nice once the top coat has been applied as well. And because those foils are matte, even when we apply our glossy top coat, they're going to still look slightly matte underneath the glossiness of the layered leaves, and I really, really love that effect that it gives off. So if you do replicate this design, you don't have to use the matte foils if you want more of a shiny pop, but I wanted that matte effect underneath. So as you can see here, I'm coming in again, just doing our final leaves. I decided to do these ones a little bit smaller, so we're just going to pop on some teeny tiny round leaves. And then once I have done this on all three of the nails, we'll pop the caramel swirl leaves in to cure for 30 seconds, and then we can move on, and I'm going to apply it the same again but with the sunset glow. I really, really loved how these two colours work together. They're not normally two colours that I would put together, but I thought it looked quite nice, especially with those foils underneath. So we're going to do pretty much exactly the same, but again, like I said, I tried to make the leaves look different so that it wouldn't, so every nail is not exactly the same. Of course, if you're doing it on a client, the client's preference might be that all the leaves look the same, but I tried to do it a little bit different just for the design. Now, let me know in the comments below, are you really hyped up for autumn nails? I feel like they're really flooding Instagram and Pinterest at the moment, and I'm loving seeing all the autumn colours. And I'm doing my best to try and show you guys different autumn colours that are available at Kiki in each week's video that I've done. So if you missed last week's autumn nail design, then I will leave it linked in the description box below for you guys to check out. And then today I opted to use Sunset Glow, even though this is kind of like usually more of a summer colour in my opinion, but we are still in summer technically, so I kind of like to transition and use some of those more summery autumn colours mixed in with some of the autumn colours, and then it kind of helps you get into the full-on autumn colours, if that makes sense. But Kiki London has some amazing autumn collections, and if you buy them as a bundle, it works out cheaper as well. So if you buy the collection, it works out cheaper than buying the colours individually. So do check those kind of things out on the website if you are building up your kit. I would definitely recommend grabbing some of the collections. Last year's autumn collection, I think it was called the Fall 2021 collection, that has absolutely gorgeous autumn shades in it. It has some of my favourite autumn shades in that one, and all of the collections as well have quite a variety of colours, so you're not going to necessarily get like two reds. There'll be a really good variety of colours in them as well. So if you are new to Kiki London and wanting some autumn colours, I would definitely recommend checking out the collections. Now, to finish off this design, I wanted to add in a little bit of Hazel Night. Now, this particular colour is one of my favourites for autumn. It's a really rich brown, but it has a kind of nice shimmer to it. So I'm going to add a few little simple dots onto our design using the Kiki London dotting tool. Just a couple here and there because they kind of just add to that abstract vibe that we've got going on. And they are really, really simple to do, but I feel like they just add something extra to the design, and it's adding in another colour as well. So I'm just loading up my dotting tool and pressing down. I'm just going to do a few here and there. I made a mistake on this one, so I wiped it off using an alcohol pad, which is why I cure as I go with each colour that I'm doing. So as you can see, I'd cured the leaves and then I've added in my dots. So if I make a mistake with my dots, I can wipe them off without wiping off my leaves. Now all of our nail art is done, we're going to move on to top coating, and I'm going to top coat today using the no wipe rubber top coat. You could use the no wipe top coat at this point, but I do prefer the rubber top coat over any kind of hand painting because it smooths everything out. Obviously when you hand paint, sometimes it's going to feel slightly raised on the nail compared to your layer of gel polish underneath, and because the rubber top coat is slightly thicker, it helps smooth that out, and it does give off an absolutely gorgeous shine, as well as being amazing for any clients who suffer with weak or brittle nails. So I'm just going to apply a thin layer of this to all of the nails. Although it's a thicker consistency gel polish, it does self-level absolutely beautifully, so you can sometimes give it a couple of seconds before popping into your lamp if you are working on quite an uneven surface. And just look how gorgeous the shine is for it. It does require a 60-second cure, so this is what the nails looked like once they had cured. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this design, and if you did enjoy the video, please do give it a thumbs up as it really helps the channel. And of course, if you haven't already subscribed, I would absolutely love it if you hit that subscription button, and I shall then see you all again in next Friday's video. I hope you all have an amazing weekend. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.